Welcome to Spinner Rack, issue 53. This is the official comic book podcast of Secret Friends Unite. This is always first and ad-free for Patreons, then it goes up the main feed a week later, so everyone can get to experience an awesome take on a comic book story, an event, or a feature on a specific character or team. This week we are doing Fantastic Four, part of Mark Waid's run from the early 2000s, and where he teamed up with Mike Wieringo for a really heritage run. Actually, it was 1998 when it started. So a really cool run of the Fantastic Four. And so, Charlie, you had not read these before?
No. And so, this was post Heroes Return, because in 96, that's why the numbering was kind of weird to me, because it's issue 60. But in 96 is when the whole Onslaught thing happened. And then the Fantastic Four, several key members of the Avengers, and who was the third big one? And that was the Heroes got pulled out. Was it just those two? No, but I mean like Avengers characters. Like Cap had a book, Avengers book, and then Fantastic Four, and that lasted for 1 year. So this was an example of one of Todd's favorite things, which is the legacy numbering. So they obviously kind of picked up something that had been running previously, or it ran weekly or something, because no way they did 60 issues in 1 year, because that's what it would have meant. No way, I take that back. Because this is not from 1998. This is from the early 2000s. It started in 1998. That's what it is. If you check your chronologist. But anyway, no, I had not read it. With the Fantastic Four.
Yes, this issue came out in 2002.
There we go.
1998 was the start of the new numbering of starting in 1.
Yes. They didn't have legacy numbering back in the 90s. They just were just like, we're never going to start anything over ever again. This was the most rare occurrence of them starting something over again. But no, I read Fantastic Four when I was a kid. So that was the 80s, the 90s. It fell off, and I never really got back on it consistently until the mid 20-teens, and now I've fallen off it again. So I'm terrible. But so to answer the long way around to answer the question, no, I had not read it, but I was delighted by this run. This was an absolutely great 6-pack.
All right. So, yes, I had heard great things about this run. I had read some of the issues, but not all of them. So I said, let's check in, because, Mark Waid, if anything, he's a writer that can just capture the essence of what a team or a character is all about and really play around with it and make some very timeless stories. So the pitch of this one is Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo deliver some of the most daring and humorous adventures of the Fantastic Four has ever seen. Giant bugs, living equations, Johnny Storm, C.E.O., exploding unstable molecules, the secret behind the Yancy Street Gang, and Dr. Doom's plans are fully unthinkable. Victor will push the Fantastic Four beyond their limits. We did not read the Dr.
I was going to say, I saw the cover for the next one, but I didn't read it. So, so good.
So we really stopped after Johnny's CEO adventures. That was kind of where we stopped. And
so we'll just leave an and. So we and dot.
Yes. We were at 60 through 66. And literally you had essentially you basically had 2 one-shots, and then you had 2 stories. One was 3 parts and one was 2 parts. So it was kind of a fun look at different adventures with the Fantastic Four. So Charlie, I felt like what this series did the best was it incorporated the personality, the family of the Fantastic Four.
Totally.
And I mean, we got to experience just a fun story about the origins of really who's been taunting Ben, and it was very touching, funny and touching series. And that was issue number 61, where essentially it was kind of the origin story of apparently Ben's been being tricked by the Yancy gang from
the beginning
years. He's never been able to get his comeuppance, and then Ben finally gets his first clue. And he basically finds an address in this pie, basically the pie spring, Charlie, the classic pie spring.
Right, with the label left in it. And so he storms off to go, destroy this address. And as he leaves the building, Johnny finally breaks down to admit his crime of years, that it has always been him. All of the gags have been his orchestration. but it just, whether it get out of hand or he was too amused by it that he could never quit. He knows now that there's blood in the water, that some people could get hurt because Ben's got hot temper and he's going to run off. So he chases after him and tries to slow him down, all the while still finding ways not to take responsibility. Kind of reminds us of a certain politician in our lives right now, but that's okay. And I do love, by the end of it, he reaches the address and the building's not there because Sue got there first and made it invisible. Yeah. So it was just an invisible building with it was just pipes. So, but it was a great, yeah.
Yeah, and the heart of it was really about why was Ben so mad, and basically Yancy Street is part of his life that he grew up on, and now he's a monster and he feels like he can't go back. Brings out some pain of this past life, when he wasn't a monster. So it was kind of a good balance to cover off that little bit of his story. So I really enjoyed that one. The first story was really about, we basically find out that Reed really wants to hire basically a publicist to make sure the Fantastic Four get more notoriety, they can afford what they're doing, because essentially they're a nonprofit, but they still have to spend money to assist their R&D.
Yeah, and again, you find out throughout the entirety of this arc, obviously, what is going on with Johnny later, that yes, they are a not-for-profit, but anyone who works for a not-for-profit knows that doesn't mean that money magically falls out of the sky, and that's how they operate their business. They have to have salespeople. It's a dirty word. I've been a salesperson my whole career, will always be. And so that's what they have. They're raising money so that the nonprofit can do their good work, and that's what the Fantastic Four is. But Reed realizes that, maybe the FF's Q factor is not where it needs to be. The FF isn't on everybody's lips. So, it's like it's its own version of the Jerry Lewis telethon.
They had some great references because they talked about you got kicked off the Howard Stern show because we have Danny Bonaducci. And they talked about all these very topical references, which I thought was really interesting that they did that. I'm like, oh, okay. Right. He's leaning into some of those elements that I forgot were part of the book. And, we did get a run in, and you pointed this out to me as you were reading it, a run in where basically Thing is essentially inspired a lot of hip hop artists. So they're dropping rap songs about the Thing.
And they were, I think anytime you try to display music in a comic book, I was reading a Captain America comic from the 80s a little earlier today with Nomad, and he was under a spell, so he was singing a song to himself, and I'm like, even though he's under a spell, this still could be a good song, or Dazzler, for example, was never a great character, even though she was trying to do Xanadu or whatever the hell it was. So, but yeah, watching this dude rap, and as I was reading it, I was sending extra pictures, I was taking pictures of my iPad with my phone. I'm like, this is it hurts, and I did, but it hurts, but it was funny at the same time. And it really underscores the purpose of the entire issue, which is that you may feel that the Q factor of the show is low, but people do love the Fantastic Four. So that's very enjoyable. Very enjoyable.
And then they were still trying to figure out why Reed was going after this. And there was an element of it they couldn't figure out. Reed never told anyone, but he had a very touching moment, with his son, where he's saying the reason I do this is because he blames himself for essentially ruining and changing the lives of all these people. So if anything goes, he can make them feel special. He can make them feel like the attention of the world. So because that's what he can give them back for the mistake he made by not shielding the spaceship enough. So it was kind of nice, just one shot issue, which was very interesting. And there was an ongoing part of the opening story of this comic. They were in outer space, and they had these bugs, and they were collecting data and things. Of course, one of the ongoing things was one of the bugs got back on the ship when they returned. So that became an ongoing
at the last
story. Yeah. Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencaster because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencaster has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencaster? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. Log in using your browser and start recording a high quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of Zen knowing Zencaster's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencaster's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to Zencaster.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Part of that last arc, yeah, but the middle arc was really very interesting. You had this basically blackened entity that was filled with green equation signs and different things like math-related stuff.
Think of the Matrix, as they mentioned,
But it's hellaciously deadly. So it appears to Ben and Susie are out at the movies, and this thing appears and it absorbs her arm, and basically it dissolves it, but all the goo is still inside of it. So she's able to save her arm by putting a bubble around it, and it does the same thing to Ben. But Reed is able to fix Ben right away, but Susie has to go through the 3 issues having just a force bubble over basically her forearm because it's missing. So it's because Reed saved the goose somewhere else. But we got to get to that later. I just thought that was really kind of a shit deal that she didn't get that. She didn't get that attended to. But it's real interesting, and I feel like I don't want to spoil what the end game was for it, because if you're going to read this, I think you should. But it was really interesting, and it also really speaks to the powers of people always underestimate Susie as being the most powerful character in the Fantastic Four because of all the things that she can do with her invisible powers. But really the most powerful character is Franklin. He's an Omega level mutant. He's the most powerful mutant of all. And that may very well have something to do with this story. So I thought it was very cool. I love the resolution. And again, it goes right back to the touch of fatherhood, you know what I mean? And the relationship between Franklin and Reed and the family as well. So yeah, I enjoyed that too. So, but yeah, Johnny Storm C.E.O. is the other big arc.
Yes. And that was basically, it got to the point where Sue was just so upset with Johnny and his just not growing up, not really contributing to the family. Yeah. So she's like, and so what was the best way she could get back at him? Basically putting him in charge of the money and the business side of the Fantastic Four. Yeah, with essentially a co-worker where Johnny had to make some decisions, and Sue thought it was a great idea because, like, basically it's scared straight, right? What's the worst going to do, Johnny? Put him in a suit that he can't burn off, or that he could burn off, so he's going to actually have to behave, not flame on and do anything. And then it basically becomes a 2 parts of the story. One part of the story is Johnny's dilemma, and the other part of the story is that sneaky bug that Reed and Ben have to deal with. So they're kind of dealing with their own things. Johnny essentially almost gets flim-flammed, and it's really interesting how he nailed the character so well. The relationships. Reed got to be very snarky in this, which I loved when he would joke at Ben, or talk about, tease Sue about, oh, you like my sexy big brain, and she'd do the same thing, and then Sue would do the same thing to Johnny to drive him nuts by talking sexy about, it was just. And then Ben, of course, just, the fact that I will say they did shrink Ben a little bit down. So he was more like a 4-foot thing, and he had a helium type voice, which Reed put fun at him. But I mean, I really appreciate what Waid did on this run, and it's yes, there's not big stakes in these books. There is
Yeah,
some
there's not one of
minor.
them. Yeah, you don't see a single heritage villain until Doctor Doom, which is beyond the arc of what we read. But you don't see like, oh, the mole man pops up, or here's the high evolutionary, or here's Red Ghost, or anybody. It's small little stories. Yes, we have a couple. We have a two-parter and we have a three-parter where the stakes are kind of high, but obviously like any TV show, because there was a great part of this with Johnny as the CEO, because you had the two scuzzy other employees that were trying to set him up to take the fall, but he was in control the whole time, and Sue he ultimately surprised her with what he did. So it was fun. And again, I don't want to spoil too much of it, because anybody who's listening to this should absolutely jump in and check this out. Available, of course, we read it on Marvel Unlimited. Also available, I'm sure, for purchase on Kindle. But please, as we always say, visit your local comic shop. Talk to your local comic shop guy or gal and say, hey, I'm interested in the 2002 block of the Mark Waid run of Fantastic Four. Flip through those bins, look for them at comic shop, look for a trade paperback. But this is one not to be missed, particularly, we're recording this just a couple of days before Fantastic Four First Steps comes out, which we're very excited about. But if you're able to tune into this when you hear this, read this. And if you haven't seen the movie, it'll definitely get you in the mood. So top shelf. This was a 10 out of 10 for me. I enjoyed this run very much.
Yeah, it captures the heart of what the Fantastic Four. They're family first. They have weird adventures. They even talk about they're not superheroes. These are explorers. These are scientists. These are the people that go out and things. And yes, maybe along the way there's a supervillain, but the majority of the time they are doing weird things with weird technology. We got various elements of that with the space bugs, and there's always Doctor Doom Shrink Ray just happened to be around, and and it's not like goofy silly. It's just fun and it's entertaining. Right. You could give this book to anybody, they would enjoy it, because just the dynamics of this team.
Not a lot of background going on, so you didn't have to be like, they really fought Mr. Blah 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 back in issue 57 in 1966 and blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's none of that stuff. This is perfect, absolutely perfect entry point, or just a road stop along the way of reading Fantastic Four. That's for sure.
It's definitely a timeless book. It's not like, something happened and you had to know what was happening at the time. This is a snapshot. This is just like, this story could have happened any time, and you don't have to worry about being caught up. So I think it's one of those great touching in points. They always talk about like those, jump in now. This is a good point. I think this is what they're even talking about. Like this book, I think this is a good time to start. And I'm like, I totally agree. Great time to start with Fantastic Four. One note, Mike Wieringo did pass away, I believe, mid 2000s. Very talented artist, loved his art style. He didn't do all of the art, but he did the art for the majority of this arc. And just really sad that we lost him. Great guy. Check out these books, and if you want to start with the Fantastic Four, this is a good way to go, and the run keeps going. So there's more stories there if you're interested.
Absolutely correct. Well, cool. All right, friends, thanks for joining us, Patreons. We love you all. If you're listening to this on the free feed, please visit patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Try us out for 7 days for free. You get to hear episodes like this and all the other stuff that we produce. So we would love to have you on board. And in the meantime, keep them spinning. Keep them spinning.
Keep on reading.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.